What's happening? Oh, light. Bam. I'm just finishing up my coffee here. Got a video from Quintessential Mind. This is Carl Jung's warning to the world, modern man in search of a soul. Y'all know, on the weekend around here, we like to have fun. We do some tie-dye. We listen to some music. But if you go back to the introduction video for the channel, this was actually the focus of it. Like, this has always been an arts channel. Not necessarily tie-dye, that's something recent. But, yeah, this has been a channel that was about self-improvement, self-love, self-care, dealing with the shadow, figuring yourself out, learning to accept who you are, things like that. And then I made a music video. I can't even remember what the oldest music video was on this channel. But yeah, that's when Centurion showed up. And Centurion made some requests for some music, and then Kyle showed up. And then Ballin' from the South, The Hood Don't Love You, and then a lot of people showed up. But yeah, this is what the channel was originally focused on. Still got a little coffee left here. And I don't think I've heard, I mean, I probably have heard this, I just don't recall it. So this is going to be interesting. Carl Jung was a brilliant man. A truly brilliant man. I think we've gotten a little bit further with his theories now. But for the time, he didn't have people to learn off of. Not like I have him to learn off of, or Alan Watts, or any of these brilliant thinkers who deal with shadow work, and of course ancient thinkers who deal with shadow work, like Rumi, Shams, Sadi. But yeah, we're about to do this. It's a 9-minute long video. I'm almost done with my coffee, so. There we go. Alright, let's do this.
Center of human priorities. This thought becomes all the more apparent.
There we go.
Carl Jung wasn't just a psychologist, he was the liberator of the human psyche. In a time where most people survived without any spiritual awakenings, he put our soul in the epicenter of human priorities. This thought becomes all the more apparent to me as I read the ideas percolated through his books, especially in a book like Modern Man in Search of a Soul. The book is a collection of essays that highlight Jung's most deep interests. He dives into topics like psychological types, stages of life, the archaic man, religion and psychology, dream analysis, and many more. The collection was published in 1933. Jung was 58 years old, and most of his ideas had crystallized into concrete theories. He sees the power of psychology and how the modern man is lost without any psychological guidance in life. Especially in the last essay of the book, he focuses on the spiritual problem of the modern man, and he attempts to open our eyes to the responsibilities of the modern man and what constitutes spirituality in our modern epoch. Jung isn't just a psychologist, he's a philosopher, an exceptional writer, a poet, and a great teacher. There is nothing more important for the personal development of an individual than understanding even a modicum of his ideas. In the beginning of the essay, Jung states the following: I must say that the man we call modern, the man who is aware of the immediate present, is by no means the average man. He is rather the man who stands upon a peak, or at the very edge of the world, the abyss of the future before him, above him the heavens, and below him the whole of mankind, with a history that disappears in primeval mists. Here we can see the influence Nietzsche had in the way Jung articulated thought.
Yeah.
This passage could easily be confused for a passage found in Nietzsche's works. He uses grandiose and poetic language to emphasize the importance and the responsibility of the modern man who, as he says, is by no means average. Personally, I don't like the use of the term average, but I understand that Jung uses it so we can take his words seriously. Then he goes on saying, the modern man, or let us say again, the man of the immediate present, is rarely met with. There are few who live up to the name, for they must be conscious to a superlative degree, since to be wholly of the present means to be fully conscious of one's existence as a man. It requires the most intensive and extensive consciousness, with a minimum of unconsciousness. It must be clearly understood that the mere fact of living in the present does not make a man modern, for in that case everyone at present alive would be so. He alone is modern who is fully conscious of the present. Here we start to form a more concrete idea of what Jung expects from the modern man archetype. The modern man is situated on top of two pillars.
Oh, hey, how's it doing? How you doing? Hood don't love you back. I just gave you a shout out earlier when I was talking about the people who first started showing up to the channel. Really made it into something. Yeah, I'm glad that you caught me live too. I'm checking out Quintessential Minds, Carl Jung's Warning to the World from Modern Man in Search of a Soul. I hope you enjoy this. This is actually what I watch for fun.
Presence and consciousness. To be conscious of oneself leads to presence, but presence can also lead to consciousness. Jung is clearly affected by Eastern philosophy, and as he ages, he sees an inevitable connection between Eastern thought and the development of the modern man. The idea of seeking presence and not just living in the present is central to the development of the self, and going about our lives while ignoring this truth clearly inhibits our potential for inner growth.
Yeah, we are in this together. I really appreciate the community that y'all have built here. I really do. I don't feel all that restricted in the stuff that I watch. I don't feel a lot of pressure to only watch stuff that other people say. I feel like I have the liberty to do stuff like this and just show you the stuff that I'm interested in, as well as doing suggestions. But yeah, this is really interesting. I'm somewhat obsessed with shadow work, and I kind of had to be, because I was a pretty awful child and teenager, and I had to do a lot of work because I have cognitive disabilities, and not really disabilities, disorders, because I've learned how to use them to my benefit now, but I didn't know how to do that when I was a kid, and my brain just kind of ran wild, and I had to do a lot of shadow work to get myself to actually be a halfway decent person. And Carl Jung is where I started. I think that's where all of us started when we began shadow work. And then you also end up with people like Manly Hall, who was also a brilliant dude, very brilliant dude. And on top of that, he was an actor. He wasn't even a like mainstream psychologist like Carl Jung was. He was an actor, but he was just an incredibly brilliant person. But yeah, let's check this out.
The 20th century was the century where science helped us realize that we can engineer our destiny, and religion started to degrade its role in shaping the fabric of reality. How totally different did the world appear to the medieval man. For him, the earth was eternally fixed and at rest in the center of the universe, encircled by the course of a sun that solicitously bestowed its warmth. Men were all children of God under the loving care of the Most High, who prepared them for eternal blessedness, and all knew exactly what they should do and how they should conduct themselves in order to rise from a corruptible world to an incorruptible and joyous existence. Natural science has long ago torn this lovely veil to shreds. Their age lies as far behind as childhood, when one's own father was unquestionably the handsomest and strongest man on earth. There is a slight sense of irony peppered over his words. It is obvious that he is influenced by Nietzsche's statement in The Gay Science that God is dead.
There's a quote that really stunned me, because mental illness is largely caused by trauma, and that quote is, "Nobody makes it out of life untraumatized." every single person experiences trauma at some point, and that's why I try to be like as understanding as possible with other people, like even people who really make me mad, like I'm just like fuming inside. I still try to be as patient as possible because everyone's broken, man. Everyone's been traumatized, everyone's been shattered. That's actually the subject matter of what I'm doing after this video. I'm releasing one of my songs. I really don't like saying that, but yeah, it's the first one I'm actually putting out publicly. I record music so I can go back and listen to it later, and the whole subject there is trauma, brokenness, and trying to figure out your path going forward. But yeah, I have it pulled up over here. But, yeah, I'm going to do that after this video, I think, unless I look up one more thing, but yeah.
Nietzsche writes, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? Is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we ourselves not become gods, simply to appear worthy of it? Jung understands that responsibility and is unsure about how the modern man is going to bear it on his shoulders. The plethora of psychological issues that affect us leads to a collective shadow that manifests itself through wars, atrocities, and a general discontent with our current state of being. We need to become gods in order to kill God. How can we really become worthy of such an exigent task? How can I be substantial if I fail to cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole, and inasmuch as I become conscious of my shadow, I also remember that I am a human being like any other. In keeping the matter private, I have only attained a partial cure, for I still continue in my state of isolation. It is only with the help of confession that I am able to throw myself into the arms of humanity, freed at last from the burden of moral exile. The goal of treatment by catharsis is full confession, no merely intellectual acknowledgement of the facts, but their confirmation by the heart and the actual release of the suppressed emotions. Although we usually see the shadow as an integral part of our existence, most of us are willfully blind to this existence. Our dark side is concealed or camouflaged in a painful attempt to protect an image that fits the narrative we decide to espouse. Through social conditioning, we come to construct a facade that can keep the substrate of our constructed identity stable so that we can keep feeling safe. Every aspect of our unconscious identity that cannot morph into conscious judgment will perpetually impede our progress as individuals, for it is creating a fantastic world that cannot synchronize with the frequencies of the real world. In such a landscape, the real world, or at least whatever we can understand of it, becomes an egotistical battleground that leads to collision and madness. Psychology, during the time Jung expressed his ideas, was still at an embryonic stage. Religion dealt with the psyche, but in an abstract and mystical way. Psychology attempted to tackle the problems of the psyche through a more scientific lens. A spiritual need has produced in our time our discovery of psychology. There has never, of course, been a time when the psyche did not manifest itself, but formerly it attracted no attention, no one noticed it. But today we can no longer get along unless we give our best attention to the ways of the psyche. It was men of the medical profession who were the first to notice this, for the priest is concerned only to establish an undisturbed functioning of the psyche within a recognized system of belief. As long as this system gives true expression to life, psychology can be nothing but a technical adjuvant to healthy living, and the psyche cannot be regarded as a problem in itself. An adjuvant in pharmacology is a drug or other substance that is used to increase the efficacy or potency of certain drugs. He uses the term here because it was about time to disengage psychology and the problems of the psyche from religion altogether. As he says, the psyche needs to be regarded as a problem in itself, and only through an elaborate psychological process, instigated through different forms of psychotherapy, can this problem ever be dealt with effectively. A psychologist for Jung isn't just a scientist, he is the purveyor of truth. He looks deep inside the inner workings of the individual and helps him confront the truth that was in a state of limbo. That's why when Jung says, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes," he essentially points everyone to the reality of the inside, an insight that can crystallize only through the proper introspection and analysis, an insight that is the key to most of our spiritual enigmas.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did,
Alright, that was a very good video. I'll do some comments on that in a second. Let's see here. We all have some artistry capabilities in us waiting to come out. Your music I need to hear, I don't know about that. I used to draw a lot of portraits of Michael Jackson. They go with, for instance, with Benalil. Yeah, I think that there is like, okay, so I could say that there is like a high correlation between being an artist and mental illness. But I think that like, that's selective. Like, we can do studies on it and prove that there's a correlation there, but I don't honestly personally think that it's like causational. I think that mental illness is just like, it's inherent to human beings. Like, when you think about what we actually are, like, and this goes to what he was saying about egotistical madness, and I said that all of evolution is, but that's, I misspoke. All of life is egotistical chaos and madness, and we are part of life. So we're in this madness of ego that we call life and progression of life, and we try to apply more beautiful terms to it because life is a beautiful thing, but we also have to acknowledge that it is chaos. Like, it is chaos. And humans are part of it. So of course I think that mental illness is just part of being human. We've established this social structure of what it is to be normal, and I don't care about normal, man. I care more about functional, and that gives you a lot more breadth than what being normal gives you. And I think every human is capable of art. All of us. Like, when you think back to like founding religious ideologies, and I'm Sufist, not really Islamic Sufi, although I acknowledge the truths that are in Islam, but I also acknowledge the truths that are in a bunch of other religions. So I'm more in the Zen area of Sufism, but we're made in the image of our creator, and we call it creator. So if we are made in the image of the creator, that means that we are all made with the ability to create. And I hate that there are so many people who don't have the time, and I understand why people don't always have the time, because like, I'm not a parent. That's one of the reasons I have time to do all of this stuff. It's because I don't have kids. And but a lot of other people, they have 1, 2, 3 kids, work 2 jobs. Dad's working long shift, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, at the production floor, because you got a $300,000 house you're trying to pay a mortgage on, and all of that stuff. But I think every person's capable, and I do also believe that every person is at some point is mentally ill according to the definition of what is normal. But I think that's the stuff that makes people beautiful, man. Like, I love the uniqueness of individuals. That's probably the biggest reason why I'm a libertarian, is because individualism is a great philosophy. I can only imagine the level of PTSD young folks from the south side of Chicago, for instance, must be worse than Vietnam vets. Yeah, worse than most of them. If you, like, I know some highly damaged Vietnam vets. My wife's sperm donor, I think that's what we're calling him, because he abandoned her and her mom as soon as he found out that she was pregnant with my wife. He was on a recovery team in Vietnam, so anytime that a helicopter got shot down, planes got shot down, stuff like that, he was sent in to pick it up, like to take photos and then destroy the scene. And he would land in and he would just see mangled bodies everywhere, and then he's having to take like photo documentation of the entire scene and then destroy the scene, which included what was left of those poor men's bodies. And he's an incredibly broken man as a result of it, as you could probably guess from the fact that he abandoned my wife's mother as soon as he found out that she was pregnant. He's still drunk to this day. He's probably coming to his last days very soon. But yeah, there were some people in Vietnam who were genuinely broken, but then there were other people who were in Vietnam and they were on patrol. They occasionally saw something every once in a while. They got into a firefight, and they probably have trauma too. But I imagine that the trauma in some of these urban districts is actually worse. Yeah, I would quite imagine so. Especially if you spent your entire life growing up in that situation. That's 4 years of deployment to Hanoi. Probably not as bad as spending 20 years in South Chicago. I wouldn't think. Like the psychological trauma of spending literally your life in South Chicago that probably messes you up really bad. You're a libertarian too? That is awesome! Do you happen to watch Styx Hexenhammer by any chance? He's the best libertarian commenter to me. I actually haven't heard of him. I don't really, roll deep with libertarians anymore, like libertarian podcasters. It's not because I have anything against libertarianism. There are a lot of libertarians that I don't like because but the ones that I do like, I like Spike Cohen. He talks way too often without looking into something. I remember his commentary on Kyle when the stuff was happening, and I was like, in his chat, I was like, bro, you haven't looked at this at all. You have not looked at this at all for the opinion that you have. And he's like, well, I need more information. And I'm like, here's all of the information. It was all released within 2 weeks of the actual event, and he just would not look at it. And eventually the verdict came in, and he was like, oh yeah, well, there's another one, Mr. Murica, the Bearded. I think he is the Bearded Truth on Muddied Waters now. I actually know him in person. He is a truly stand-up guy. Let's see, are there any other libertarian podcasters that I listen to? Honestly, he doesn't call himself a libertarian, and he still misuses the word capitalism. But he is coming around to it, to understanding what his comment section means, because he actually cares about what his commenters have to say, and that would be Russell Brand. I would say he's probably, we would probably consider him libertarian left right now, because he still has, this misaligned definition of capitalism versus corporatism, but he's a really good commenter, too. I really appreciate the work that he's done throughout this whole mandate situation. But I will have to check out this other dude. I ain't no lie. And I need to give you the link to my Discord, because I have an arts and crafts section on there, and I would love it if you would post there, because I love seeing people's artwork. So let me get that link right quick, and then I'll put it in the YouTube chat, if I can remember where to get it. Here? Oh, drat. Oh, it's here. Hold up. Invite. There we go. Link. Thank you. Copy. I'll read that in just a second. I'm pulling up the stream so I can post the link in it in the chat. There we go. I think. Did it go through? There it is. Okay. I don't see the average liberal as the enemy, but I don't support a lot of conservative issues. I'm pro-weed legalization, pro-gay marriage. I prefer conservative economy. That's about where I am too. I'm not particularly conservative, and I don't see liberals as an enemy. I don't even necessarily see, and this is good, not Marx's definition of socialism, but like modern socialist people who think that they're socialist, but they just support social democracy like what they have in Scandinavia. I don't even inherently see them as the enemy, because like if California wants to do its own thing, and like South Carolina do its own thing, I'm fine with that, because in South Carolina we actually could probably pull off the Swedish model in South Carolina. We couldn't do the Finnish model; our economy wouldn't survive it. But the Finnish model is actually starting to change because Finland can't survive it either. But I think South Carolina could pull off the Swedish model. I really think we do. We could. But it would also require a lot more responsibility on the local government level and on the state level. Honestly, no, let's just go with the local level. Let's just let the municipalities run things, and like the state could be like just this check and balance to settle disputes between municipalities, and let's just make that the only power that they have. But yeah, I think South Carolina could actually do really well if we weren't like fighting at the federal level. If we actually brought a lot of these policy discussions back to the state and local level, we wouldn't be having the issues that we're having. I'm also pro weed legalization. I also want to see an overturning of the federal code that makes it a barring offense for buying a firearm, because that is freaking ridiculous. And I'm also very much pro-gay marriage. I don't think that the state should have anything to do with marriage. I think you should just go to a minister, and if the minister's cool with it, then I'm cool with it. I don't care. I think it's just people putting their nose in business that they don't need to be putting their nose into. Lost Libs unfortunately don't understand how the economy works. If we were to tax the top 1 to 5% even more, so they pay already half of the taxes, they would need to go back to countries like China. That's true. I mean, if you tax the 1% at 100%, you could only fund the federal. Oh, I'm dropping frame rates. You would only be able to afford about 3 months of federal spending. If you tax the 1% at 100%, you could only fund the federal government for 3 months. That's insane. And to think that we can actually tax our way out of that situation is even more insane. It's obviously a spending issue. Maybe we don't need to be spending as much on foreign aid. Maybe we need to do less military foreign aid, more actual food foreign aid, actually improve situations in those other countries instead of just being like, here, have a few mortar shells. Don't you want to use them? And then going in afterward to justify an entire war of our own, like Desert Storm. The United States gave Saddam Hussein all of the ingredients to make his weapons, and then he used them, and then we use that as a justification to go in and invade the country. I think we actually need to do something about that, instead of thinking we're just going to tax the rich out of the situation where they don't even have enough money to do this for an entire year. And then they wouldn't have any money. Then there is no one left to tax. Yeah, we have a major spending problem in the U.S. We have an authority problem in the U.S. too. We really need to decentralize before we completely collapse as a country. Why is... Oh, that's why. It's still playing a video. There we go. Yada da da. anti-war. Our military existence in other countries should be going in and going out with no decade-long stay to fight wars that don't involve us. I completely agree. There's no reason why we invaded Afghanistan. Well, yeah, there is, because we needed to pad the dollars of defense spenders or defense contractors. But we could have just as easily done what we ended up doing in Pakistan to Osama bin Laden, and we can go into that whole spiel about how he was working for the agency for decades. But yeah, we could have done the exact same thing. We could have done a targeted strike. We could have killed him and like the top 5 people in Al Qaeda without ever putting serious boots on the ground in Afghanistan. That was a botch and a half. 100%. That entire war was about padding contractors' pockets. So was Iraq. There was more reason in Iraq because Saddam Hussein was actually a pretty bad dude. But it takes a pretty bad dude to keep that region of the world, like, stable. Probably the first thing we should have done when we went into Iraq was decentralize it. Break it into 3 sections. Have the Sunni, the Shia, and the Kurdish sections. Let them absorb it as they needed to. Does Sunni... the Sunni section needs to go to Iraq, and then the Shia section goes to Syria, and then the Kurds have their own. And I actually wish that the Kurdish people had autonomy as a people, and they weren't living in 4 different countries that all oppressed them at some point. Yeah, in general, we have a problem with the way that we fight wars and how readily we let ourselves be involved in wars. It's really, really stupid. Ah! But there you go, okay. That's fine. I'm not a partisan, so I support various living con issues, but I hated Bush, Obama, and Biden's foreign policy. Trump was the only one consistently against war. Yeah, that is true. As much as there are things that you can say negative about that dude, he was pretty consistent on his non-intervention policy as far as foreign policy goes. I think it might have been a little bit much killing Soleimani the way that he did. Doing it without ally casualties as well would have been a lot better. I don't know how they would have pulled that off. But it wasn't a good look when we killed him and he was with Iraqi allies, which of course he's going to be because they're neighbors. They have to work together, at least in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, he was pretty consistent, and I'm pretty sure that Biden has already, we've already killed, or more kids have died as a result of U.S. raids already than died as a result of U.S. raids under Trump. Now, that's not counting the actual drone program where that's autonomous. I'm talking about direct actions, direct initiatives, like that first raid that Trump directly ordered. What was his name? Awaki? Was that his name? He was an American who was in the Middle East, and his daughter got killed in the firefight. And everyone I know on the left side of the aisle just defecated themselves over that child dying, and I agree, that child should not have died. And then, you know, Biden's first strike as a directed initiative killed an aid worker and his entire family, and it was just crickets. It was just crickets, man. They didn't care at all. I know a few people who did. I know a few people on the left who cared about that, but nobody else wanted to even talk about it. I don't know what Biden and staff is doing with Russia and Ukraine. Military-industrial complex is cheering it on, with media claiming we're siding with Russians for opposing war. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing with it either. I'm really not. And like, Putin is a crazy dude. Like, he does have this romantic ideology of reuniting the former Soviet states into a single republic again, and he has like a somewhat sociopathic desire to reunite with Ukraine as a sister land, and he's willing to spill blood over that. And I think the best solution is to split Ukraine in half, right? That would seem like probably the best option. Is letting the half of Ukraine that wants to be part of Russia be part of Russia, and let the other half of Ukraine that wants to be independent be independent. I mean, Ukraine would have to shrink a little bit, but that's I would rather Kiev only have half of the country they have right now than the entire world get annihilated in World War III between Russia and the United States. Like, I think that's probably the best solution that we can hope for, is that the officials in Kiev can actually get past their hubris enough to let Crimea and a bit more of Ukraine secede and join Russia. It's not ideal, but you know what? There is no ideal solution here. That's just the best one that we have. I personally believe. But as far as what the Biden administration's doing, I have no idea. I have no idea what he's thinking. Like, I know that it's a common thing that when a president is polling horribly, they might start a war. But this is not the war that you start. This is not it. like what we were doing in Syria, where it was a proxy war between factions aligned with Russia and the United States. It's not ethical to do that, but it's certainly preferable than going into a direct war. Like, we're going right up against Russia in this one, and it's a terrible idea. This is not how modern warfare works. This is how you set off a massive kinetic war, and that's not going to be good for Europe. It'll be great for the United States as long as nobody decides to use nuclear weapons, because then we get to rebuild Europe like we did after World War II. Our economy would be just explosive. But you know what's even more explosive? A Tsar Bomba. Trump's policy opposed Putin more than Biden's. That is true. Trump was Obama just sent them like blankets and food supplies, and Trump sent them actual weapons when the Russian buildup actually started, or when the buildup after the annexation of Crimea started. Only 5% of Americans said Biden did better than expected, and only 22% wanted to run again. And that's from left-wing polls. I don't doubt that for a second. Joe Biden is probably the biggest failure of a president I've seen in my lifetime. Like, I grew up under W, and W is dumb. George W. Bush is an incredibly dumb man. Even he didn't do this bad, man. Even he didn't do this bad. And we're only a year in. Like, if this actually pops off in Ukraine, then we're all screwed. We are all screwed. Like, the hubris it takes to think that this is a good idea. All right. So, here it is. This is a song I wrote when I was just really, really down. I have been doing regression therapy and realizing some stuff that I didn't really want to realize again. And this is the result of that. Me trying to write out all of these things that, like, almost the thing, it is the things that shape me into who I am. All for better or for worse. These are the things that shape me into who I am. Trump was vice president since first term Reagan, and Biden made second term Reagan. Cognitively speaking. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That statement is true. That statement is true. The only real thing that I can say negative about Trump that I can't say as easily about other politicians, because he was typical as far as like doing whatever needed to be done to keep the establishment happy, without giving them too much. The only thing really is just that he never knew how to shut up. That was the problem with Donald Trump, is he never knew when to just stop, just walk away. There's no need to escalate this any further. He's like, I'm going to escalate it further. I'm just like, oh no. But yeah, that was my chiefest complaint about him, is he was too off the cuff. But yeah, he was definitely better than what we have right now, 100%. But yeah, this is the song, and I feel so strange about even doing this, but you know what, whatever, because this is it for a discussion on shadow work, and yeah, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. It is garbage. I'm just going to let you know now, because the computer glitch on the audio recording, and I had to do a bunch of splicing on it just to get it to halfway work. But yeah, let's go.
Hey Bray, was it a good day? How was school? Did those kids beat you up again because you ain't cool? I know the answer, that question is rhetorical. Little do you know now, those beatings are metamorphical. Look at you, you're going into first grade. That's around when that guy who wore too much fruit suede became the principal. That spell always makes you nauseous when he puts on mascara. Lost the door into his office, beats you black and blue, leaves you bruised and molested. I won't sugarcoat it, your will to live is being tested. But in 20 years, karma's gonna send a storm. That monster dies in prison, possession of child porn. But that won't undo the damage that's already done. Most nights you'll wanna eat the barrel of a gun. It's all your fault, at least that's how your mind gets spun. The worst is beginning, there's nowhere left to run.
So yeah, that verse is about the things that I did not really want to remember, that I re-remembered through regression therapy. Was this dude who he came to the school when I was in second grade. That's when my other principal, who was actually female, and she actually had a hell of a swing on the paddle too, because I had cognitive disorders that kept me from being as good in school as I was supposed to be. But he showed up in second grade, and from second grade, why were you so shy about that verse? Not bad at all. I would have liked to hear the full song. I'm going to do the full song. I'm just going to do a quick stop after the verses to talk about it. But I just don't like the way that the recording came out on that verse. But yeah, that was the first thing that foundationally affected me, and who I would later become, was this dude who was abusing me. Both like physical abuse and sexual abuse for years, until I finally got to go to another school in 6th grade 4 years later.
You are a survivor, no one can dispute that. Darkness overwhelms you, but you reroute it till you become a creature even devils fear. You steal a scrap of Hell's Gate as a souvenir. So you're gonna start bouncing between a bunch of schools. You'll never keep your friends because you act a fool. You don't know it, you got cognitive disorders. The systems in your brain don't even respect their borders. And for decades, you're gonna see this gift as a curse. You're hypersensitive, but one day you'll figure how it works. You'll start seeing the world in ways that nobody else can. You'll start getting your life together and lay out a plan. But then it's all gonna get swept out from under you. You're gonna go to work one day on the demo crew. You're gonna come home and find found a little note stuck in the door. It says, Bray, your mom has had a stroke. She hit the floor. You try to get a hold of dad and tell him mom is in the ER, will she make it? There's no telling, you're that memory you have of her. You look in her eyes when that last stroke hit. You watched a fade from life, fade from life.
So that was when I was 19 years old. Actually, I wasn't even 19 yet. I was 18. I turned 19, I think, 5 months later. 4 or 5 months later. I went to work one day. I was down in Clemson, and I live in like the Greenville area of South Carolina, if you're familiar with the area at all. So I was about an hour away from home working that day. And I came home. Dad was staying a little bit late because he had to finish wrapping things up, but I was done with my work for the day, so I came on home, and I found that note in the door. She had been she was volunteering at the time. She was at a battered women's shelter, and it was her first day volunteering there. And as she was leaving to get in her car, she dropped. And she was in the ER. When I got the note, I got to the ER, told the family, everybody, what was going on, and there was an issue with the hospital where she needed a clot buster, but they had to do an MRI to verify whether or not there was a clot to bust before they could give her the medication. And their MRI machine was down, and they refused to transfer her to a different hospital because the American healthcare system is so fantastic, right? And yeah, she died because they refused to give her a procedure because they couldn't do a scan on her because their equipment was broke, but it was a hospital in a different network, so they refused to transfer her. So she died. I know, I understand that. I understand getting a kick out of it. It's just not for me, but I understand why people liked them. But yeah, that was part 2 there. Here we go. If it'll play. Hello. Ah, it stopped working. Okay. Reload it.
You're that memory you have of her. You look in her eyes when that last stroke hit.
And yeah, that actually happened.
You are a survivor. No one can dispute that. Darkness overwhelms you, but you reroute it till you become a creature even devils fear.
I'll talk about that after this last verse.
Of Hell's Gate as a souvenir. Once she's buried, you'll dive headfirst into drugs and booze. You're gonna start hanging out with wrong kinds of dudes. They're gonna introduce you to all types of pills. Your first overdose is vodka, perks, and wagon wheels. That's the first time you get a glimpse of the other side. Even the infernos of hell couldn't break your stride. So for years you'll live in bottles, taking bumps of cocaine, popping pills and Molly, anything to control the pain. You don't know what those are. One day you're gonna learn. You'll take a handful of flex, chase with whiskey to burn. You'll start drinking a suitcase because you think you can. But in an hour you don't know it, you're dying again. You beg and plead with God, you try to bargain. After years of sinful living, you want in the garden. You come to, sober up, and you carry on. But you realize all the things that made you are God.
By the way, that beat was from Trunks, Trunxks. He is a fantastic producer. He actually does some work with Pendo from time to time, and all those beats are amazing. But yeah, that last one was about my 2 overdoses. The first one was just the worst experience ever. That was the vodka, Percocet, and Valium overdose. I was technically gone for about 4 minutes. And that was an awful, awful, awful experience. The second time was the Flex-Real whiskey and Miller Lite. A suitcase of Miller Lite. That one was also a terrifying experience, but it was a transformative experience. I was gone for a while on that one. But whatever. That's why I don't really take chances anymore. I'm just like, third time probably ain't the charm. Probably, you don't want to play around with numbers like that when most people don't get past 1. But yeah, I'll get to that question because this is Shadow Work Sunday. The purpose of this song is to give, I guess, examples. What are some, and this is just something for you to think about over the week, moving forward. What are events in your life that that traumatize you? And we've been talking about trauma since the beginning of this this stream, and how it's related to mental illness, artistry, all that stuff. What are some events in your life that deeply traumatized you? How did they change you? Were the changes negative or positive? And what are your feelings about those outcomes? And if you have negative feelings about a negative outcome, for example, what are steps that you believe you could take to heal from that trauma? So that's 5 questions to think about for the rest of the week. I was so uncomfortable doing that, by the way. But let's see, what are some of my favorite singers, rappers, and bands? I'd just say bands. I'd say Fit for a King, Spiritbox, Bloody Wood is really getting up there for me. I used to like bands like Day to Remember, Bring Me the Horizon, but I've gotten like on a kick where I need a lot of substance in my lyrics to really enjoy a song anymore. So yeah, I would have to say Fit for a King, Spiritbox, and Bloody Wood are probably my favorite right now as far as bands. Rappers, I'd say I love the Marine rapper. I really love his message. Topher is also really, really great. I love his message too. I like Burden. He's pretty good. Dax is really good. I'd have to say probably my favorite though would be NF, just because his message is so good. And he's actually becoming a heck of a technician. Like, if you've been following him from Mansion to therapy sessions and all the way forward to Clouds, which is his most recent tape, you can hear his progress as a rapper with his delivery, his cadences, all of that stuff. And on top of that, he has, over the course of those albums, one of the coolest redemption arcs I've ever seen, as far as an artist goes, and it actually helps me. 5 out of the 6 slots in my car CD player are NF albums. That's how much I've enjoyed being on the journey with him. I never tried drugs other than weed, but coming close to ODing must be a trip in itself. Sometimes I get that feeling like, am I about to die, or is this another panic attack? 5 minutes later, it's over. That's yeah. I've had a couple of panic attacks while on cannabis, but it's only like super potent stuff that'll give me a panic attack. But I've been there. I understand that's not a good feeling, man. That's not a good feeling at all. There's cannabis is like, as I'd say, is the lightest drug, like compared to really anything. And alcohol is it's not even a probably. Alcohol is the most dangerous drug. It's actually more dangerous than heroin is. They're the only 2 drugs that can kill you from overdose symptoms. And if you have clean heroin, it's not as dangerous as clean alcohol. We just have a stigma associated with hard drugs, like heroin or cocaine, things like that, even meth, all of those are safer than alcohol. They might make you act loopier than alcohol, because alcohol literally shuts down your body and you can't act as dumb on alcohol, because a lot of times, I mean, the further you get into drinking, you can't move anymore. But yeah, there are some really dangerous drugs, and I didn't really think about how dangerous they were, and I took them anyway, and I had two very bad experiences. But like I said, the second one really woke me up, because of what was on the other side of that experience. I might do a video on that eventually. I doubt it. I very much doubt it. NF gets a lot of hate from people claiming he's an Eminem wannabe, but he's a great artist. He really is, and he's not an Eminem wannabe. Like, nothing about his content is anything like Eminem. The only thing that he has in common with Eminem is that he's white. That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's literally the only thing that he has in common with Eminem. I can't think of anything else. Like, their content is completely different. The purpose of their content is completely different. I would say, like, Tom MacDonald probably deserves that title more. And I think he actually embraces that title. So I think, because he actually does the content that Eminem did. He doesn't cuss as much as Eminem did, but it's in the same genre, kind of. Yeah, NF's on a completely different plane of existence in hip-hop. I don't know why anybody would compare him to Eminem, other than he's just white. I'm scared to get caught with weed or somebody knocking on my door while my entire place smells like it. It's still not legal yet over here in Germany. Oh, okay, I got you. Well, what are the laws surrounding CBD in Germany? If you burn too much incense, it would confuse the coppers. Howdy, y'all. Hey, Holly. That's my wife, guys. Are you at lunch, my love? Yeah, my house always smells like cannabis, but if you have, if the law specifies Delta 9 THC, like it does in the US, then you can buy products like this. This is a Delta 10. It is legal across the United States. Even in states where medical or recreational marijuana has not been legalized, hemp CBD is legalized in every state in the United States. It's legalized federally. It's very similar. Now, it's the safety of it is still out. Because this is processed. It has to be created by introducing an acid to CBD that creates the isomer Delta 10, but Delta 10 is the most natural isomer of CBD, because that's the one that your liver actually produces when you eat Delta 9 edibles. It converts it into Delta 10, and then you get high off of the Delta 10. Enjoying a sub and a sit. Mostly happy to see. I feel you, Holly. Holly works hard, y'all. Like, she don't take no jump. She don't need no man. She just loves me. I don't know why. I love her too, though. You can get CBD weed at every corner store here in Germany. Never tried it though. How does it make you feel? Okay, so plain CBD. Hold on. Give me a second. I think I have some here. Plain CBD. That's what this is. This is CBG. CBG flower is a little bit stronger than CBD as far as pain relief goes. CBD does well enough, but CBG just is a little bit more. It helps a little bit more. There's also Delta 8 isomer, which is this. This is an indica Delta 8 isomer. I don't really prefer this though. It's not anywhere near as good as you would think it would be to have the name Delta in it. I just use it to like cut my CBG, make it a more pleasant smoke, because this is Girl Scout cookies that has a really nice flavor. But Delta 10 actually is the closest thing to legal street marijuana. I'd say. It's not as potent as like street weed is now, especially in the United States with all of these medical states and recreational states. The strains are way too potent in the U.S. That's about halfway between the stuff that I smoked when I was a teenager and what you would get today. But it doesn't create the fog as bad as Delta 9 does. It's actually a really mellow smoke. And that was Citron, which is a sativa. Got that Omicron 8. Why? That would be interesting if someone actually did produce an Omicron strain of cannabis. I think that the public reaction might not be too good to that though. But yeah, if you can get a hold of that, actually the shipping would probably be insane from Nevada to Germany. But there are some sites online where you can find those flowers and such. Aren't the gummies I use for mental stress and pain relief Delta 8? I remember it's 25 milligrams. Yeah, Holly actually gets ridiculously high off of Delta 8. Like she can't even speak it like full sentences. She told me that words turned into like visuals in front of her. She's trying like the commercial with Eminem for the new Super Bowl halftime show where he's like moving the words around trying to form the sentences. She said that's what happens when she takes one full 25 milligram gummy of Delta 8. So yeah, it really just depends on what your tolerance is to THC, what each of them will do to you. But yeah, if you're like a habitual smoker of street weed, then that Delta 10 is going to be the closest thing you get to it that's actually legal. As long as the statutes in Germany specify Delta 9 THC. All of the other THCs are legal if they specify a strain of THC. But yeah, I'd smoke Omicron 8. Why not? As long as it's an indica. I love indica. That's my jam. Like I said, the Citron's a sativa. It gets me through, but indica's where it's at. They usually, they have an option for gelato at the company I buy mine from, but they hardly ever have it in stock. Well, this has been fun. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about? Shipping products from the U.S. to Germany is at least $14 without the customs duty. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not really feasible. That's not feasible at all. Let me see here. Let's see. Bam. Delta 10 Europe flowers. I gotta pay $45 for it. I paid $45 once for an iPod. Oh my gosh. For the shipping on an iPod? Words turn into Tetris boxes and crunch break away before I can say them, so I often have half a gummy at a time, and only if I'm not working the next day, because it helps me sleep really well too. And it does. It really does. And it's good that Delta 8 is as weak as it is compared to street weed, because otherwise Holly wouldn't be able to use CBD derivatives at all. Doesn't help my brain in sifting through Spanish, Japanese, German, English, and fragments of Portuguese. Yeah, Holly has her own language. She has made her own language. It's very fun. Let's see. So it doesn't look like anyone's selling Delta 10 in Europe. I might be able to find something eventually. Let's see. If they sell Delta 8, we might be able to find one of them that sells Delta 10. So, but yeah, this is all Delta 8 here. So you have resins, edibles, flowers, gummies. Yes, for the shipping, since the product was more than $150, if it's higher, then you have to pay even more. That is ridiculous. That is insane. It's probably the same here though. I just don't really buy that much international product. I know that to get something out of Japan is ridiculously expensive because of the restrictions they put on their own products. Yeah, this looks like it's probably all Delta 8. Let's see, what is it? Category? Is there? No. Okay. Huh. That is really weird. Does nobody sell Delta 10s in Europe? Let's try the old trick of throwing some quotes on here. Okay, so PR Newswire, Austin Empire. Oh, okay, so that's U.S. product. That's weird. That's really weird. Thanks to legalization throughout the UK and Europe, you can now legally order the best CBDs from Just Bob. So let's see. CBD flower shop. Let's see if Just Bob has gotten with the times. Never tried edibles either. Too scared to trip out for 8 hours. Duties and taxes from Germany when you sell products is kind of wild, but it's also insured. Other things labeled as gifts aren't duty taxed that way. Oh, so there might be a good workaround. Kind of like when you go to the DMV and they're like, "How much you pay for this car?" and you're like, $1. Paid $1 for this. It was a gift. I can't actually take edibles because I burn my liver out with alcohol and it won't process the Delta 9 into Delta 10, and it just like just goes straight to excretion. I never process it, so I don't get anything out of edibles. It doesn't matter how strong the product was that went into it. I get nothing out of edibles. It really sucks. But I can no longer produce the enzyme that converts Delta 9 to Delta 10, so it'll actually leave my liver. So I just have to keep doing the flowers. Yeah, let's see. Just Bob Shop. Just Bob Shop. Just Bob Shop. That's CBD, CBDA. So yeah, he doesn't have Delta 10 either. You would have to get it from the U.S. But there's a shop, CBD, yeah, dot direct. This is a place where you can get it. It's from Nevada. They have an on sale section. You can see, so let's see, Delta 8. Now, odds are if it's going through international customs, it's probably a drug dog might sniff it out, and there might be some issues, but it might get through. I'm not sure. To change subject, what do you think about the Joe Rogan situation? I think that Joe Rogan is not a bad dude whatsoever. Sure, I haven't even seen what all this is about him using the N-word. Supposedly the episode with Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo had it in it, and that's one of the reasons it got taken down, but I don't remember hearing it in that entire episode. It might have been the guest said it. Eddie Bravo might have said it, but I do not remember Joe Rogan even getting a word in edgewise during that episode, so I'm kind of wondering what's going on with he said the N-word, that's why these episodes got taken down, but I've seen a few of those episodes and he didn't say the N-word in those episodes. I think they were just taken down because of who the guests were, and maybe the guests said it, but it got taken down at Joe Rogan's request. By the way, Spotify did not make the decision to take those videos down. Joe Rogan asked for them to be removed from the catalog before it was put on Spotify. But I think it's ridiculous. Like, the idea that you're not allowed to question anything is absolutely insane. And people are saying, well, he only has anti-vax people on there. No, he doesn't. He actually has had like 3 vaccinologists, like people who actually develop these things, on his podcast. So that's a ridiculous assertion. He's also had a bunch of other pro-vax people on there as well. But you're not considered pro-vax unless you're pro-mandate anymore. If you think that it's okay to get it and you want to get it and you did get it, but you also want people to be able to choose, you're considered anti-vax now, and that's stupid, and that's intentional divisiveness. It's a means of making us pawns in a game, and a lot of people are falling for it. The word was said in an episode in 2011. Ah, okay. So like 11 years ago, he said that word, and now we're supposed to publicly crucify him for it, even though he's apologized for it. Yeah, no. Rumble offered Rogan a $100 million deal without censorship. I would make the switch. I'm not going to tell him what to do there, because Rumble doesn't have as big of an audience as Spotify does. It's not as certain of an exposure. I mean, obviously the income is certain because it's contractually obligated. He's got his $100 million from Spotify. He would get his $100 million from Rumble, but Rumble's not as big of a platform yet. As far as I know, I haven't been on Rumble in forever. But that's probably why he's holding off. But I would actually like to see him make the switch too, personally. He's probably just waiting for Rumble to actually develop more as a platform. In 11 years, he's done lots of shadow. Yes, he has. Yeah, this is a dude who used to convince people to eat buffalo sauce covered bison testicles for money on television, and look at him now. Rumble may also not have server capability that Spotify can provide. That's also true. That is another thing. It could also be technical issues, technical capability over at Rumble compared to Spotify. So yeah, there are probably a few different reasons why he hasn't done it yet, but I think he will eventually. I would imagine he's in communication with Rumble, telling them issues that would need to be resolved for him to come over to the platform. And hopefully they can resolve them, and he can leave Spotify and head over to Rumble. And that would be the first time I downloaded the Rumble app to my phone. I would actually watch it then. I actually need to check out a recent episode he did on Spotify with Randall Carlson, but I hate the Spotify app, so I haven't done it yet. But yeah, you can see they have these bulk ones. Let's see, do they have any 10 bulk? There's 8 bulk. So you can get this quarter pound for $90, and sometimes they'll be running specials. I think they're actually running one right now. Yeah, so you type CBD50 in as the discount code when you go to checkout, and it knocks 50% off the price. So you could buy a quarter pound of Delta 8 for $45, and then whatever the shipping is beyond that. And there's a quarter pound of Delta 10 over here. I'll go ahead and open it. Will you be on Truth Social? What is Truth Social? I'm intrigued. What is this? Is it like Float? Is it like Float? Because I was on Float, but nobody else really was on Float. There was another one. It was a Russian-based social platform. It was a guaranteed no-kick platform, and I got kicked off of it. But, oh, they're sold out. Oh, that sucks. That's for the big bag. They still have the small bags. But when this gets refilled, if the sale is still going, you can get 50% off, and you get a quarter pound bag of Delta 10, which is really nice alternative for $45. But that's the website that I buy all of my stuff from. Thankfully, I am in the U.S. Trump's new platform. There's a chance I would get on it. We'll just have to see how it goes. It depends on like the level of toxicity of people that end up on that platform. I'm not saying that all Trump supporters are toxic people, but there are toxic people among supporters, and if they all flock to that app, I might not be on it. Never heard of that. Surprising. I don't really keep up with it. I used to keep up with. Hold on, my frames are dropping like crazy. Okay, we're back to green. But yeah, I used to keep up with politics pretty heavy, and I have a news channel that I used to do that I can link if anyone's interested, or you can just look it up on YouTube. It's Domari, D-O-M-A-R-I, Nolo, N-O-L-O, Dispatch, and I haven't done anything on there in a few months though. I got so burnt out on politics, man. Because it really is just a back and forth between sides that neither of them are actually really doing what they need to be doing. but they are at the same time polarizing all of us into civil unrest, which will inevitably end in civil war here, unfortunately. But yeah, I haven't actually kept up with the news on that, because he's been talking about releasing a platform for like 2 years now. But it's interesting that he's actually getting it working now. I will check it out. I will check it out, definitely. Just depends on the caliber of the people who end up on it. Yeah, I think that's going to be it, because I've been going for an hour 20 minutes now. I need to do some tie-dyes, so I need to go ahead and get my my dyes ready, and then I will probably go ahead and stream that too. So yeah, check back in around 11 o'clock and I might have that going. Lots of dictionaries change the definition of antibiotics to the people who have... Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Because the data changes depending on what the powers that be want it to be. It's really unfortunate. We like when we completely redefine words as cultures. That it's insane. Just to fit political disputes, it is insane. But yeah, I will be back in probably about 30 minutes, and we'll do a tie-dye session, because I have 3 of them that I need to make today. But yeah, until next time, I love you all. Be notorious.